What's up? What's up? What's up, people? Let me just unmute you there. Welcome back, folks. I am with Ernst today. We back here on the dirty, talking about all the nasty, filthy things, the dirty tactics used in alienating kids from their parents. Whether it be fathers, mothers. Right now, we haven't had any mothers coming on, but yeah, mothers are alienated from their kids just as fathers are these days. Today, I've got with me another dad, Ernest. Um, Ernest, thank you for joining us.
No,
First of
thanks for
all,
having me.
I hope today, my pleasure, man. Um, Today is a tough one for most alienated parents. Our kids have gone back to school. We're not allowed to be there for various reasons, and yeah, it's always a tough one. Christmas, it's one of those occasions where you just can't spend time with your children. I just spoke to a dad earlier today as well. He was broken because his son is actually showing the signs of alienation. All he wanted to do is give him a hug and give him some support and motivation for his first day back at school. And the boy was uncomfortable. In any case, Ernest, um, bro, how was your day today?
Well, I had a good day. It was quite a busy day today. Just mostly keeping myself busy with work-related stuff. I mean, the year started off with quite a bang. Hopefully, this year will be, out of an economic point of view, be a bit better than what last year was. I think last year was or even the year before that was a difficult one in quite a few senses. Not only out of a work point of view, but also I think out of the court systems were slow. Getting things done by the court was also a complete drag. I think normally, where, a court case would have taken place, let's say after a month, it took 2-3 months, for things to start, to happen. So, everything got dragged, and I think everything got slowed down in the last couple of years. So hopefully this year will, I'm quite optimistic about this year. I actually had one of my customers asked me this morning, what's my feeling in regards to 2022? And I say, well, listen, I think I went through quite a bit of a dip in the last couple of years. So hopefully
Yeah.
this year can only go upwards. Like Deirdre said to me a bit earlier, if you hit rock bottom, the only way you can go is upwards. So I believe that hopefully this year we've got a few good things that comes out. And I'm also optimistic with what Pain SA is doing. And I think the movement's definitely going to make some ingrounds. So, yeah.
Things we're getting no results here with the court systems. People are trying to follow the rules, follow the protocol processes put out there, but just nothing is working. So if you are a professional legal profession, if you're in the legal profession, if you're a social worker watching the show, please do not hesitate to comment as we go along. Ernest, what's the one thing that's standing in the way of you having access now with your kids?
The main thing that stands in my way to have access is that a couple of years ago, initially when the divorce summons was issued out was April 2000, and we're going for 3 years now, so it was April 2018. It got issued, and then there's two different interim orders that you get. I think when you go through the High Court system, it's called the Rule 43, and then when you go through the Magistrate Court, I think it's called the Rule 58, but it's basically interim relief. And then in that Rule 43 that got issued out against me a couple of years ago, it was also stipulated in that Rule 43, which is a court order. It stipulates in that court order that I need to see the children under supervised visit. So basically, the plaintiff, which is now the mother of the children, she issued out in the Rule 43 that I need to see the children under supervised visits or someone nominated by her. Now, she's using it in her advantage in the sense that the Rule 43 doesn't stipulate any details. It doesn't stipulate which weekend from what time to what time. It doesn't stipulate Father's Day I'm getting. So it's very holistically stipulated in a sense that it only stipulates that if any contact that whenever I see the children, it needs to happen under supervision. So she's using it in her advantage, to try and say, well, if I can't make arrangements for supervision, or I can't supervise the children in my regards, then unfortunately I can't accommodate you to, let's say, meet the children at a mutually agreed venue to be able to see your children, and at the end of the day, that's the court order, and I just need to adhere to it.
Sorry to break your word there, Ernst, but what's the reason? It's always interesting to me, in almost every case I ask, and there's this supervised visitation, even in mine. What was the reasons for you being supervised?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, is that a couple of years ago when that Rule 43 got issued, I went to the High Court because obviously I didn't object to Rule 43, because at that time it would cost me 35,000 Rand to object or oppose the Rule 43 in the High Court. That was what my lawyer at that time advised. And I mean, obviously myself, I didn't have the funds at the time to oppose the Rule 43. They went in and made accusations, which up until today, I don't know what the accusations were. I don't know, if the accusations were, I'm looking at her funny. I don't know what the accusations were. I've went to lawyers via Legal Aid, which is basically a firm that represents you if you're unemployed. Or it's a matter of I think you need to earn under 6,000 Rand a month, then you can approach Legal Aid. I then went through that avenue. I went to the High Court, and no one could present to me the reasons why I need to see my children under supervised supervision. I mean, like, no one can tell me the reason ABC is the reasons why you need to see your children under supervision. It's just a question of this is what's stipulated in the court order, and sorry, that's it. I mean, interesting, So
I just wanna address the audience here again. Sometimes we have lawyers watching this. We have various people. If you know the answer to that, like, my question to the audience here is: should someone know what they've been accused of? Do they have the right to at least know the reason for them having to be under supervised visitation? Or is that just how it is? You just need to accept that an allegation was made and you can't defend it. What's your constitutional right in that? Just type in the comments below. So who summoned who here for the divorce?
Yeah, it's quite ironic. Yeah, well, it's quite ironic. The plaintiff is the mother in this case that summoned me for divorce. Okay. So the reasons that she stipulated in the divorce summons was just a matter of, it was reasons. She said I started becoming quarrelsome. She said I started getting aggressive tendencies, where there was never ever a case of domestic violence ever. It was actually it's another point that I'll make, that I raised with the magistrate court in Rustenburg, where I applied for a variance for the care and contact of the children, where she never even approached, the police to open a case, for a restraining order, because she couldn't really open a restraining order because she didn't have a case. I mean, there was never a matter that I, raised my hands or anything. So she just
physical abuse or anything like that. No.
Yeah. So and she
no
just
cases
said
with the J88 attached or anything.
Nothing, no. So she just basically mentioned that it's just a question of the marriage got deteriorated beyond repair. We're sleeping in different bedrooms, and what was the other reasons? Yeah, and just basically I'm being quarrelsome.
Was that true at the time? Was that true at the time? Were you sleeping in different bedrooms?
Yeah, but there was a reason for that. Was that at that time Lily was born, which is my youngest daughter. She was just born, and at the time when she was born, she had colic, so she was crying nonstop. And the thing is that she was obviously on maternity leave, so she was 3 months off.
Yes.
And I said, well, just for myself to get a bit of sleep, we should sleep. I mean, there was a few
you still needed to go to work.
I still need to go to work, so I can't afford to literally sleep 1 or 2 hours a night. I mean, she's at least the next following day when Lily, my daughter, goes to the creche, she can at least play some catch up with sleep and sleep during the day, because she's on maternity leave, where I wasn't allowed that opportunity. I mean, I had to go to work. I didn't have the privilege of having maternity leave at the time. And so it was just for a couple of months. And I mean, obviously, that wasn't the main reason why I got summoned. We all know, and I can give you the reasons why I was summoned for divorce. That was definitely not one of the reasons. The main reason, from my anecdotal experience, and the reason why she was summoning me was because of the fact that she was unemployed at the time, and I applied for a personal loan because she didn't have a credit record to be able to apply for a personal loan. So I said, well, I'd apply for a personal loan in order for you to start a business. And, and I made a personal loan. She started importing products, but she was neglecting the business. She wasn't giving it the attention she was required to give the business. So inevitably the business liquidated. And when I was sitting with a personal debt, she saw it as an easy cop-out. Like, no, okay, he's sitting because of the fact that we were married out of community with accrual. She saw it as an easy cop-out. Well, if I get divorced, he's going to sit with all the debt. Easy as that. Let's just quickly.
What was the loan amount, if I may ask?
Well, it was around, I would say, it was about, give or take, between 250 and 300K. So, it was about 3 different loans that I applied for. And, and it's a similar amount. I mean, myself, you, and Teggy had the conversation the other day where it was exactly the same amount, So, I don't know why it's so coincidental that we all had the exact same amount.
300, 400,000. Yeah, it's a sweet spot, guys. Careful. So, how long ago was this when the divorce was summoned? And
so that was
when you were summoned for divorce.
Yeah, that was April 2018. I got summoned. So it's going to be 19, 20, 21. Yeah, sorry, it was April 2019. So it's going to be now this year, April. It's going to be 3 years that we still haven't got the divorce decree. We're still in the process of getting a divorce. We were married for 5 years, but we're going on 3 years for getting a divorce. So much so for the judicial system.
So you guys are not divorced.
We're probably going to be divorcing longer than what we were married for. So
So it seems so. So you guys are not divorced yet, right? And why, in your opinion, is this process taking so long?
There's 2 reasons. Obviously, there's the maintenance matter, and then there's also the care and contact of the children. So out of the maintenance point of view, at that time when I was still employed, she was she summoned me for maintenance for the children, a third of my salary, which was way above what the children's expenses were. We've applied with her lawyer numerous times to get a notice to discover for what the maintenance amount for the children is. What's the reasonable amount? What's school fees? What's food? What's clothing? What's the reasonable amount? But they never came with a notice to discover and never provided us with feedback. So, and my argument at the time, and then after the maintenance that they summoned me for, I said, well, I'll pay you the amount. I'll pay for the children's school fees. I'll accommodate. I mean, it's not that I'm running away. I mean, they're still my responsibility, but I'm not going to pay for her and her boyfriend to go sit in a pub somewhere or sit in a restaurant. I'm not going to pay for her expenses. I want to know what my children costs every month. And that's a nonsense story to come and say to me, but they were used to that lifestyle. No, they weren't used to that lifestyle. You, at the end of the day, are just coming with the erroneous amount. And you just applied for the amount. It's just going to be convenience for you. You're just going to have a bit of extra cash in the back pocket, instead of actually.
How much did she want? How much did she want, if I may ask?
She wanted 5,000 per child, so it was 10,000 rand for the both of them. And the interesting part is
the kids were how old at this time?
My boy was 3 and my daughter was 1. So there's no way that they costed 10,000 rand at the time. I mean,
they can consume 5,000. Oh my God, I can live on 10,000 rand right now. I can more than live on it.
I've heard of fathers being summoned for 40, 50,000 rand a month. I mean, and it's a question of they just take it. So there's a formula that they work at, but it didn't even work according to that formula, because that formula stipulates there's a whole formula to calculate what maintenance should be. You first take the cost of the children, then you look at what the mother earns, what the father earns, and according to that proportions, that's the amount that you pay maintenance. But that's the reason why we applied for that notice to discover, to see what the children's actual expenses were.
Yes.
They were just thumb sucking and saying, listen, the total amount is 10,000 rand. There we go, and I mean, without saying, listen, this is the expenses, school fees, food, clothing, anything like that. I mean, come on, it's just ridiculous. It's way above what.
So you you divorcing for three. You've tried to divorce for what, 3 years now already, right?
Yeah,
3 years
yeah,
and counting,
correct,
give or
correct.
take.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that's the
About
one
3 years.
part that took so long. Sorry, I'm just
Okay.
losing you there for a bit.
And then when last have you seen your kids?
Well, my
I'm
daughter,
fading out here.
I haven't seen my daughter for 6 months now. It's been 6 months since I last saw her because the last time when I had to see them now, just before Christmas, she had a cold, and that's one excuse that's popped up numerous times in our court cases. Is the children are sick? She used it at numerous excuses. Then she's sick. Then the child is sick. Then so it's constantly being used as an excuse. I mean, it's like almost like they're more sick than what they, actually they're healthy. So my boy I saw now in December, it was about a month ago, but before that I haven't seen him for about 5 months. So and that's the general consensus for the amount of times I'd see them. I mean, I average see them per year. Last year I probably saw my boy four times, and my daughter I probably saw 2 times, 3 times last year. So and it's a constant request. Can I see the children this weekend? No, sorry, I can't. I'm sick, or this. I don't have, I don't have transport, or it's this, or it's that. It's constant excuses on
COVID,
excuses.
COVID.
You know,
How about COVID? Was COVID pulled out?
COVID was pulled out in the beginning. I mean, because of the fact she moved, I think it was beginning of last year, she moved to Rustenburg. So she moved to a different province. So I did a bit of research. Apparently, South Africa doesn't have any jurisdiction to stipulate that the mother needs the father's permission to move different provinces. So she just moved to a different province, and at that time I had to get applied for a certificate to do interprovincial traveling at the time. So I couldn't do
Yeah.
interprovincial traveling, and there was a way apparently that you could apply for a certificate, but I said, well, I eventually had an essential services certificate, but she just said she's afraid. She doesn't want the children to get exposed. She doesn't know where I was, and she's afraid that I might, give the children COVID. So that was used as a card. It was used for a couple of months. So, yeah, that was one of the cards she played, so to try and prevent me from seeing the children.
What's the latest one now that's preventing you from seeing your children? Obviously, the excuses change over time. So what's the newest one now?
Well, she got diagnosed with breast cancer. When was it? Last year. She claims August, but the last few court cases we attended, the lawyer couldn't provide any medical certificates to confirm that she does have breast cancer. So she's constantly saying she's sick. She can't bring the children. That's one of them. And then the main excuse is that she doesn't have transport. So she basically forces me. She stays with her parents on a farm in close to Rustenburg. Now she's enforcing me to say that I need to go visit the children at her parents' premises. And I said I'm not going to do it, because at the end of the day, once I start doing it, I'm going to create set precedent, and then they're going to start forcing me and say, yeah, but now you need to constantly do it, and I'm not. I mean,
Exactly.
if
I
you
would
had a bit
never
of
recommend that you fall into that. No, don't.
I won't. There's no way. There's no way. I mean, if you had a bit of integrity, and I reversed the roles, I said to her, well, if you want to enforce me to come and see the children at your premises, what about me coming and picking you with the children up, and I taking you to my family, and you sit there? Since you came with the initiative that I need to see the children supervised, then you come to the premises and you come and sit with my family and then supervise while we visit the children. I mean, it's not myself that came with the initiative to have the children being visited under supervision. And she said, yeah, but if I was really serious, I would have put in an effort to come and see the children at the premises. I said, yeah, that's convenient for you to say. You don't have any integrity. If it was that simple and easy, then bring the children to my premises and come and supervise, and bring the children to my premises and let me visit the children at the comfort of my own home, So
I think that should be made a rule. Like, if you want supervised visitation, you come here where I live and supervise them. Because what they're trying to do is, again, isolate you and triangulate. So they corner you, and they can make up stories. You can walk out there and an accusation is made. You've broken in, or you smashed the house, or whatever the case. It's ridiculous. Tell me, are there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm listening. Now, what I was saying is, at the end of the day, I totally
Yeah.
agree with you. I mean, if the plaintiff makes the requisite that you need to see the children supervised, then everything should continue according to the parenting plan. The children should come to my premises the following weekend, and you need to supervise them here at my premises. I mean, I didn't come up with the supervision; it's yourself that came up with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, and
And you
yeah,
do
there
have a
you look.
parenting plan in place, right?
That was a parenting plan. It was recommended by the family advocate and the what do you call it, the social worker. So we went to go see, according to her lawyer, they applied for us to go see a family advocate and a social worker, and the recommendations they made, I was perfectly happy with.
Right.
Was that I can see the children every alternative second weekend. You know, the whole phased-in approach of after 3 years they can start sleeping over. After a certain amount, like 6 months, they can start rotating holidays. 5 days at my 5 days out of the holiday at my premises, Father's Day, birthdays that might, the whole, like, when you start phasing it in, there's a whole recommendation on, I think you can get it on divorcelaws.co.za, where they've got this whole plan that they've stipulated here on the web. And I said, well, for the interim, I'm happy with the recommendation that the family advocate and the social worker made. And that was my main problem from the beginning, is that why was this not taken in recommendation, or wasn't taken in consideration when they applied for the Rule 43? I mean, if you want to come with supervised visits, then let's stick to this recommendation by the family advocate, but you need to come and supervise.
You were a bit too happy with it. You should have acted and walked. You should have acted and walked out there with your head sinking, and I think that you wouldn't have had a court order now. So again, guys, if you're watching, this is a typical one that is granted. You get your alternate weekends and midweek contact and all of that. So if you're happy with that, don't show it, because that can also be taken away from you. Am I right, Ernst?
I agree 100%. Yeah,
I think you showed them that you were you shouldn't have showed them you were happy. Yeah,
I don't
but
think
now
at that stage, I didn't even know what the recommendation was going to be. I mean, I didn't know, what was going to be stipulated. I mean, I didn't at that time even know you get something like a parenting plan. I mean, no one advised me, listen, compile a parenting plan. So at the end of the day, it was just a question of going to see the family advocate and seeing, and whatever the results would have been, I would have said, okay, well, fair enough. When the results came back, my lawyer at the time said, well, listen, we're going to be honest with you, but the results that came back from the family advocate and the social worker was actually, it's reasonable. It's not like, I mean, at the end of the day, first prize would have been 50-50, yes, parenting. I mean, that's first prize. That's what we're aiming for. I mean, sometimes, like we had the conversation that, that should be a requisite to, aim for 50-50 parenting from the beginning, and then whatever comes after that, let's say the logistics, like for instance, now my children moved to Rustenburg, so that makes it a bit difficult, right, but it should be a starting point. It shouldn't be like, the mom automatically gets full custody or the father gets automatic full custody. It should be, but still, I mean,
if your kids spent a week with you and a week with her, you'd be able to juggle that better than what you are now. Am I not right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you don't want the children to now change schools every week. I mean, out of a logistic point of view, out of a developmental point of view, it's a bit unrealistic to expect a child to be in different schools every second week.
But there's online schooling these days. There's online schooling, I think. Right, and again, this is just in my opinion. I think we're too hung up on children going through the conventional schooling. Okay, situations have changed and circumstances have changed. We've got the option of online schooling now. I ask the question always: what's more important, the child going to school and being around children, or the child being with their parent? It's a tough one to juggle. I don't know. Type in the comment below. What's the answer to that one? The child going to or the child having access to both parents equally. Right. So, what does your court order stipulate?
Well, the court order stipulates, well, that's now the Rule 43
What does your
stipulates
court
that
order stipulate?
it's very holistically stipulated. It just stipulates that I can see the children, but it must happen under supervision or a nominee by the plaintiff, which is now their mother, that I need to see them either way under her supervision or someone that's nominated by her. So one other interesting point for me is that she can nominate whoever she wants. So she can nominate someone that just literally came out of prison. That's perfectly acceptable. He could have just come out as long as she trusts the person that she nominates. I'm the monster here.
Yeah.
But she can nominate someone that literally just came out of prison from murder, as long as she just nominated them, then it's perfectly acceptable.
My
And
my
the
my
interesting
ex nominated. Yeah, this one quickly. Sorry to break your word there. My ex
no, not
nominated
at all.
my ex nominated a bipolar neighbor, actually diagnosed with bipolar, and that woman is still trying to help her till today alienate my child.
Yeah, no, and I mean, at the end
Ridiculous.
of the
So
day,
I
you
just
should ask
wanted
the
to
question:
confirm
who's
the
more, who's more competent? You know what I'm saying? I mean, she's got a boyfriend that, the interesting part was, as soon as this court order got issued out, and that was, let's say, last year. It was about, or the previous year. Yeah, it was last year, actually, early May. It was issued out, and the interesting part is that for the first 7-8 months, she never came herself. She always nominated someone, either a sister or a boyfriend. No, my boyfriend's never even had children. He's never worked with children, but he's more competent than what I am, which is actually a father who actually raised my boy up until the age of about 3 years old. But and she would have seen someone different every week. Then it's a neighbor, then it's a mom, then it's a boyfriend, then it's a sister, then it's a friend of a friend, And I'm like, so you trust these people more with the children than what you trust me with the children. Even before the court order was issued, a year before the court order was issued, there was no problem with me visiting my children unsupervised. There was no
Yeah.
problem. All of a sudden, when the court order came out, then all of a sudden it was a problem. So what changed in between from when you summoned me for the divorce, after a year after you summoned me, I saw the children unsupervised. Then all of a sudden, bang, court order, supervision. I need to see the children under supervision now. What changed in that year? Nothing. So if it was such a big problem, for me to see the children under supervision, why did you not, the day when you summoned me, stipulated in your divorce summon and applied for a urgent application that you don't trust me with the children unsupervised? Why didn't you apply for it in the summon? Nothing changed in that year. Nothing changed. All of a sudden, bang.
And as you mentioned, you've had unsupervised visitation, and then suddenly you were slapped with this court order.
Exactly. For now, I still don't know what the reasons are. I mean, I've went through case lines, I went through lawyers. No one can give me the reasons. I still don't know what's the reason. I mean, I wasn't. There was no domestic violence. There was no. I mean, and one of the judges, that was the point that I wanted to make earlier when I went to Rustenburg court to apply for a variance for the care and contact of the children. That same question popped up where I raised the issue and said, "Listen, why do I need to see the children under supervision?" And the mom made the accusation, yeah, but she's scared because the father's got a short temper, he's got aggressive issues, whatever. And then the magistrate said to her, so why didn't you apply for a restraining order? And she said, yes, I wanted to, but I never got to it. So then it was never that serious because
I never got to it.
I never got to it, and I wanted to, but I just never got to it. I'm like, if it was that serious problem and I was such a big threat, you would have put in the effort, you would have applied for that restraining order, which you never did. So then there's no reason for you to make accusations for whatever reason that I need to see the children under supervision. I mean, I've heard a case of one of the fathers a while ago where the mom accused him of drug abuse. And it was made a court order, you need to see the children under supervision, just based on what the accusations the mom made. I mean, it wasn't even a question. They didn't do tests on him to see, listen, did he test positive for any drugs? Has she got any, actual evidence where he was caught on camera where he did any drugs? It's just a question of, no, he's a drug abuser, so sorry, supervised visits. I mean, where's the law in that? She's just making false accusations. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost a matter of the more you lie in court, the better you are.
Yeah.
It's not a question of being honest. And raising the point. I mean, if you want to make, I always say, if you want to make great accusations, you need great evidence to back that. I mean, you can't just make accusations and just say, listen, he's a drug abuser, and sorry, he needs to see the children on supervised visits. I mean, and they get that.
Sorry to break your word, and it's funny because exactly all the same accusation. I was also accused, but then she very quickly also said, "Oh, I also used to experiment and all of that." But then the social worker said, "No, wait, hold on. You can't want to accuse him of being unstable and being a drug abuser when you saying that you experimented." Yeah, then she threw that out. But this is 10 years ago. It seems like things have regressed. It seems like the way of thinking, it's now, I don't know if it's just a matter of you hearing the same things over the times, all the time, so it's just processing. But I wish that these clerks, I wish that the social workers would just sit back and process and think for once, to say, out of 10 cases, there are 10 people being accused for the same thing, but they don't show signs of it.
Like,
all right.
It's
As you were
just
saying,
it's just interesting. I hear so many fathers that need to see their children under supervision, and for me, my argument is it's not like the mom insisted while they were still married that, listen, I'm not going to leave the children alone with the father because if I'm scared something might happen. But all of a sudden, when divorce happens, or the summon for the divorce happens, then all of a sudden now it has to happen under supervision. But I mean, when you guys were still married, the father was still good enough, or the mother was still good enough while you guys were still married. If you popped into the shops, you didn't say, listen, I'm just going to find my sister so she can just sit in here because I'm not 100% trusting you sitting with the children while I'm away. Shops, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I was there while she was working overtime and going out with friends and having parties and all of that. Then it was good enough to look after a 8-month-old baby.
It's unfortunate. I mean, and it's just sad for me that this supervised visits just gets thrown into the court so easily, and it gets thrown onto a court order so easily without being evaluated properly and looking at the actual evidence. I mean, like I said, the basis should be 50-50 parenting. And whatever accusations, I mean, and this is another story I'm going to tell you now, which is also very interesting. So, the plaintiff's, she's got a stepbrother he was adopted when he was, let's say, about 9 years old. So her father never had any boys. He only had 3 daughters, and he never had a boy. So what he did is, it was actually their cousin at the time, and apparently he came out of a according to them, out of a very broken house. I don't know the background, but my ex-stepmother went as far as telling that little boy to lie in court and tell the judge in court to say to him, listen, my father's got a drinking problem. He drinks excessively. Now, how can you tell a 9-year-old boy to basically commit perjury in court in order to get your way? I mean, to what extreme measures are you willing to go? And it runs in the family. I mean, to tell extreme lies, to basically advise a little 9-year-old, listen, tell the judge that your father's got an excessive drinking problem in order to be able to adopt the child. I mean, like, yes, I mean, instead of doing evaluations and first doing getting a psychologist in, evaluating the boy, saying, okay, is he actually telling the truth? Like asking the questions, playing devil's advocate, asking the questions out of a different perspective, try and see, listen, is this boy being forced to ask that to tell what he did, or is it actually the boy saying what he did? And it's things like that. I mean, I've heard so many cases where fathers get falsely accused of sexual abuse, for instance. I mean, and then the children get advised.
Guaranteed, if you've got a daughter, guaranteed you will be accused of that.
And it's like, I mean, like you said now earlier, why is it that they haven't seen that that's a pattern? I mean, if you've got 10 fathers coming in and 7 out of the 10 fathers get accused of sexual abuse. I mean, come on, is it that prominent? Really? I mean, I would have still believed 1 out of 100 case or 1 out of 50 case, but 7 out of 10. Come on. I mean, seriously.
Even 1 out of 10 still acceptable stats. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can even relate it like to the workplace. If every Monday you have a flu and you booked off sick for a flu every Monday and you need to go for a drug test. That was standard protocol when I was working in the bank. You know what I'm saying? It's a trend, it's a pattern, it's easy to pick up. Come on, skrik bietjie wakker julle if you are watching this. Seriously, man, jeez. Or you notice the pattern and you're just accepting money under the table, like we know so many do here. I've heard a lot about some corruption that's happening, and we'll be working on that as well.
Corruption's prominent.
Nah, something's got to give here. We can't all be useless, and we can't all be molesters and drug addicts. And seriously.
I mean, if you can't see the pattern, I mean, it's evident. I mean, it's evident. There's a prominent pattern.
I mean, you can check people by their teeth. It's easy. Just smile for me. Okay, there's a couple missing there. Let's go for a test, buddy. You know what I'm saying? We know. There's some holes in your face there. I mean, you can spot it. It's not that difficult.
It's it's also and it's another interesting point for me is the fact that she just got awarded full custody automatically. I mean, there was no evaluation process to say, okay, the father is he's the main income provider, or he is he's got a bachelor's degree, or he's doing a psychological evaluation to say that he's intelligent coefficient, or he's emotional coefficient, equal IQ test to see that he's more competent to raise the children. I mean, surely you would have done a few tests to say, okay, out of a psychological point of view, out of emotional point of view, he's more competent to be able to raise the children. It's just a question of, okay, mom, you're the mom, you get 90% of the time custody, get fully awarded. I mean, at the end of the day, that's antagonistic, towards what the actual best interest of the children is. I mean, surely those kind of things should be taken in consideration, not just automatically, okay, you're the mom, you get full custody, there you go. I mean, how many stories haven't you heard where the mom gets custody and then 3-4 years down the line, all of a sudden they find out the mom's incompetent? I mean, there was an article not too long ago in one of the newspapers where the mom was found in a room with her own feces lying around in the room. The children was walking around unsupervised. I mean, this mom was completely incompetent. How did she get custody in court and the father didn't get custody? I mean, for 2 or 3 years, he had to launch an urgent application to get custody of those children. Why wasn't it the case from the beginning that both the parents got psychologically and emotionally evaluated to see who was the actual competent parent from the beginning to say, listen, you get custody awarded? Why should it be an automatic thing? It shouldn't be an automatic thing. It's basically
laziness. It's laziness, and if there's no money involved, if psychologists don't know that they're not going to get, they won't get payment, they won't make their 40, 50,000 or whatever out of it, then it's like brushed aside. It's not worth their time. No one must tell me best interest of the child. I ask one simple question: what is the best interest of the child? Is it in the best interest of the child to not see their parent, to have one parent broken down completely psychologically, financially? Is that in the best interest of the child? Is that what we're teaching children?
Exactly.
Right? What happens when that child grows up?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's not just the children that gets affected. It's the alienated parent that gets affected. I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard of so many cases where the alienated parent commits suicide. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll say, you can go afterwards. They'll say, yeah, no, look, yeah, they'll say, yeah, no, look, he was in a poor emotional state. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's not him being in a poor emotional state. It was a question that the law system is antagonistic towards our psychological well-being. I mean, I explained it to my girlfriend a while ago out of an analogy point of view. I said it's similar. For instance, you were in a concentration camp. You had your children with you. All of a sudden, the Nazis took your children away from you, and they said, "Listen, in order for you to see your children once every 6 or 8 months, or whatever the case might be, or just to keep your children alive, you need to dig a hole and work for us just to be able to keep your children alive. But you can't see them, but you have to work to be able to keep them alive." It's similar. I mean, it's not healthy. I mean,
It's exactly the
child
same.
needs both their parents. It's evident. I mean, the proof is there that the child needs both the mother and the father figures in their lives. And don't come and tell me that the mom must get benefit or the father must get benefit. There's a reason why there's two parents, and both needs to be in the children's lives.
That's right.
So,
And
yeah,
whatever lifestyle the child has lived before, that can be maintained. But if, look, divorce isn't easy, and divorce here in South Africa is expensive, more expensive than other countries.
very
How
expensive.
how are you expected to go through a divorce, spend tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of rands, come out of that, support the children now with a ridiculous maintenance, support your own home, and in most cases, what I've discovered lately is that the alienated parent didn't actually want all of that.
Yeah,
They didn't want the divorce. They actually were good people. But
yeah,
I the one party just gets bored and they're like, I need to move on, but I'm taking your children as well, and I'm gonna destroy
yeah.
you in the process.
And the sad reality is that they how they see it is like as if the children are their assets. It's like they belong to them. Like they're using them as, I can
My
almost say,
child.
as they use them as a pawn. Like, for instance, and I've heard this in numerous cases where the mom would say, "Well, if you don't pay maintenance, you don't see your children." I've seen that numerous times. Like, if you don't make an upfront payment this month, you won't see your children. If you don't make an X amount of payment, you don't see your children. I mean, when has the children started to become, how can I say, they're becoming pawns, in order for financial gain. That's what it is, and it's not supposed to be like that.
No, it's definitely not supposed to be like that. And I think there's a, a good name for that. I'm gonna put it up on screen here quickly. Yeah. If you didn't know, and I hope alienating parents are also watching this. This is what you are guilty of, and we are going to prove it. Trust me. The walls are closing in. It's going to things are going to change when people see this for what it is. Let's look at the definition of human trafficking here. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception with the aim of exploiting them for profit.
That's
That's
it.
the
So it's human
that's the
trafficking.
that's the definition there of human trafficking. Now, why I say that this is human trafficking is because exactly what you said now. You will not see
Yeah,
your child if you don't make a
child's
payment.
being held hostage. Child's being held
Let's let
hostage to be utilized for financial extortion. That's what it is.
yeah, let's not call it maintenance anymore. Let's call it ransom. That's what it
Yeah,
is. It's ransom. Your child
financial
has been
extortion.
kidnapped.
Yeah,
Your child has been kidnapped. They are held against their will, and they are now. You need to pay a ransom to see them. So yeah, I'm not
yeah,
calling maintenance anymore. It's a ransom.
yeah, yeah.
So
Exactly. I
uh,
mean, maintenance would
yeah,
have been maintenance if you knew exactly what the children's expenses were. and
Exactly.
you know exactly that your financial means are being contributed toward what their actual expenses are. And I mean, as a father, I still have the financial responsibility, and I take it on myself as having the financial responsibility to look after them. But you can't go and say, no, I need to pay 20,000 a month. So where's that money going to? And you can't prove to me. You can't come with you can't disclose where that money is going to. So at the end of the day, I'm paying you a salary just to look after my children, basically.
Exactly.
And I don't want that. I want to look after my children myself. I don't have to pay
Yeah.
you a salary to look after my children.
So who of you agrees to 50-50? Child should be with one parent 1 week and with the other parent another week. Figure it out on how that works. But when the child is with the one parent, they are fully responsible, and when the child is with the other parent, they are fully responsible. I think that's equal. That's just in my opinion. Who of you think the same? You can leave a comment below. In the meantime, Ernst has actually brought to my attention. I wish I had watched this documentary sooner. I wish I had known about it sooner, Ernst. But I swear I am going to market the hell out of it, because all the problems that we have is solved in this documentary. I know some of you guys may have seen this trailer before, but I'm just gonna play it again until everyone is sick of it, and until we start implementing exactly these strategies here, because they are working. Tried, tested, copy, paste. We don't have to recreate the wheel. Skrik wakker, mense. So it'd be nice if I just played the video, but I lost my track there. So there we go. There we go, technology. Dankie mos.
It's such like a tug of war with whose side are you going to choose. I realized like it was just tearing me apart.
It was always, you're on my side or you're dead to me.
The first time my dad saw me, I was in my grandma's arms in a courtroom.
It really felt like she didn't want anything to do with me.
It's hard when you have to stop and think that your child wants nothing to do with you because of what they've been taught.
One parent gets to be a parent and the other gets to be, at best, a visitor, and at worst, completely erased. And a lot of it has to do with our judicial system.
What I remember about being in court was having to lie to the judge. Sorry.
It destroys lives, it bankrupts people every day, it tears children from their homes, and just so happens to be a $50 billion a year industry.
If you don't pay your child support, you're going to go to jail.
Walter Scott decided to bolt from his car. Court documents show he owed more than $18,000 in child support payments.
These fathers are not deadbeat, they're dead broke.
Nothing I said mattered. None of the evidence I brought forward mattered. The judge wouldn't even look at it.
He's nothing like I was told he was.
If there's 22 million adults dealing with this, that's over 22 million children. And the mental health consequences are severe and long-lasting.
It's heartbreaking to me to see how many of you are dealing with this.
My dad was erased from my life.
It's happening all over the world. This isn't a father's rights issue. It's not a mother's rights issue. It's a human right issue.
My daughter here and I have been alienated from each other for the majority of her life. She called me and said, "Dad, it's time to move home," and she came home.
If the court worked in a way where there was 50-50 custody, I'd be happier. I wouldn't feel a void because I've never known a life where one parent wasn't missing.
A new bill would make default custody 50-50.
How come we don't have shared parenting in the law? It's called special interests.
We need more clarity in law to support what is best for children, shared parenting, and this helps move in that direction.
I want to show people that it can have a happy ending.
In about 10 minutes, we're going to leave for the courthouse so I can legally readopt my daughter.
Yeah, it's touching.
No, this was that documentary there, and I'll leave a link in the description. Sorry, in the comments below. But Teggy said that he agrees also to 50-50. Lisa Marie says the same. Pengy says every parent needs to save money for their kids' education after matriculation. How are they supposed to do this when they are being milked for his last penny? This is literally in the best interest of our children, but they're stealing the money literally from you, from something that could have been sorted like this with just signing a document. So yeah, we definitely need to move in this route. As to when government is actually going to do this, we don't know. But I mentioned before, we have been to Parliament. They are aware about it. Last year, they had hearings, public hearings for changing the bill, and it's actually on YouTube. I'll also see if I can find that link still. But here's the link for the full documentary on erasing family. You guys have to watch it. This documentary has changed bills in America. If you don't know, like every state has their own law sort of thing. They've got, I think, governance, and then but every state gets to adopt or adapt what they choose. And this documentary has actually changed that. And in Sweden, this 50-50 law is amazing. You know, it is a bit of a slip with kids traveling and all of that, but I don't want to spoil the documentary for everyone. It's spoken about there as well. So guys, watch it. The more we are aware of the possibilities and the solutions that's already there, we don't have to think of anything. It's there already. We'll open up for questions, guys, or comments if you guys want to. Is there anyone that would like to come on and just share a quick experience with us? Okay. Lisa Marie also says, how can a stranger decide what's in the best interest? Just a question when they are incompetent. Well, that's a question that we all stuck with daily. You know, we before our children were ripped away from us, like Ernest said, we were good enough. We were good enough then, but now, because there's a divorce, someone else gets to make the decision in your children's lives. Children are being dragged to court at the age of 12 to say, make a choice between which parent. And
I mean, like I said, it's a very good question.
It's
a very good question.
You go ahead.
No, I wanted to say is that that's a very good question in the sense that you know, they just come with recommendation based on their anecdotal experience. They don't base it on actual psychological evaluations, emotional evaluations. You know, there's no test being done. It's just a question of
character references.
That's it. You know, it's a question of, I mean, you know, if they would have done proper analysis on the mother to see what's her emotional coefficient, what's her intelligence coefficient, is she emotionally capable to be able to look after the children? I mean, we had this discussion the other day where we looked at the signs of alienating parents, and parents that's alienated, they got narcissistic tendencies. If they don't have narcissistic tendencies, they also tend to have a low emotional coefficient. So those are tests that I would have said, if they could compile those kind of tests to test, listen, is the mother potentially, you know, a narcissistic behavior? Is she does she have a low emotional coefficient? You know, if those kind of things can get evaluated more thoroughly, then they can make a more informed decision. But it's just a question of, you know what, I'm deciding on the day. You know, I feel like a mother day today. I feel like a father day today. So, you know what, at the end of the day, it's in the best interest of the children for the father or the mother to get, you know, full custody. And it's not based on anything.
Or the other thing that they do is they look at your behavior. So you come in there as a father who hasn't seen your child for 6 months, 6 years, or whatever the case may be. You are high strung, you emotional, you've got a mixture of feelings, happy, sad, everything, and they look at you and they say, "Oh, this one is unstable," without any evaluation. This man is crying. Men don't cry. No, not good for him. Supervised visitation. Now you must go and sit in your mother-in-law's house and act normal in front. No, man, fuck this shit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, not at all. I mean, it's if we would have had experts doing thorough evaluations, thorough, emotional and intellectual, and different tests to see, what's a more informed decision, I would have said a lot of these problems wouldn't have been here. And starting off with, I mean, no one's perfect at the end of the day. None of us are perfect at the end of the day, but starting off with 50-50 custody at the end of the day, because like I mentioned earlier, the child needs both parents. I mean, it's evident. I mean, it's if you have a look at the statistics in the United States, prisoners, how many of the prisoners in the United States are fatherless, that they grew up without a father? I mean, the statistical evidence is overwhelming that prisoners in general, I can tell you that exact same statistic can apply to our prisons here in South Africa, that most problematic children lacks one or the other parent. At the end of the day, they lack one of the parents. So the statistical evidence is overwhelming at the end of the day. So, and I mean, and it's the courts at the end of the day. They are causing the problem from the beginning. I mean, they are causing that problem instead of solving that problem. So
they cause the problem, put you through trauma, put you through all the emotional abuse. You come there as a wreck. They caused it, and then they tell you after that, keep it together. Keep you emotionally unstable.
And they're not asking, why did he steal? Why did he murder? Why did he do this? X, Y, Z. You caused that problem in the first place by basically erasing one of the parents out of his life. You are basically the initial cause. Now you're actually sending him to prison for something you initially caused at the end of the day.
So take responsibility. Our government, our court systems, judges, lawyers. I always maintain a case where two parents get divorced, or even if they weren't married, if they split, should never even go to court when it comes to the child. Simply, it should be documented. You signing an agreement here as to what you can give based on an evaluation, like you said, a formula. You first sort it out between two parties. That is amicably, without anyone being paid. The whole thing is someone has to be paid for things to be sorted out. And then guess what? 9 out of 10 times it, or rather what I'm hearing now, 10 out of 10 times it never was sorted out where there was a lawyer or mediation involved.
Yeah, and most of the times it's also it's biased. I mean, it's most of the times, it's whoever's got, and out of my personal experience, it's a question of, and that's how the court system works, is like you mentioned in that documentary, it's a multi-billion-dollar, industry. Is what I've noticed is
$50 billion a year.
Lawyers are in heaven when they can drag out a case for as long as they possibly can, because the longer they drag it, the more money they make. I mean, I've seen with, in my case, the opposition's lawyer, they're one of the most expensive divorce lawyers in Gauteng, and I've noticed that they're not acting in the best interest of their client even. They're acting in the best interest of their own pockets. They want to see how long they can drag this thing to try and make as much money as possible. I mean, I've seen it evidently. And at the end of the day, you start realizing that that's the strategy, and then you start complying to that strategy and say, well, if you want to drag this thing, let's see how long we can drag this thing. I mean, I don't have any expenses towards lawyer costs, so we can drag this for the next 5 years. I don't care. Let's drag it for the next 10 years. The only thing is now for me at the end of the day is I want to try and get contact from my children, because I want to see my children. But for the rest of it, we can drag this case for the next 20 years.
You know what pops into my head? These attorneys that you're speaking about dragging things, and I agree with Tegi here. This gender-based violence thing, look, initially it was started with good intentions, like the abuse got out of control against women. But I hope that the police start seeing that women are starting to use this as a trump card now. And especially, I mean, it's just protocol. If you accuse someone, there must be a J88 attached. There must be an investigation. There has to be proof of physical violence. If there is no proof, the plaintiff needs to be told, if you are lying and this goes to court, you are going to be charged for perjury.
And that's another major problem.
That just be a
That's another major problem in our judicial system,
Yeah.
is that there's no consequences if you lie in court. I mean, even out of a family law point of view, you can tell as many lies as you possibly can. There's no repercussions afterwards if they find out that you lied. I read an article the other day where it was an American football player. He was at his prime. It's now slightly off topic, but just to give you an idea, and he was falsely accused of rape when he was about 16 or 17 years old. He got sentenced for 8 years. Long story short, they videotaped the person who made the accusations, and she openly admitted that she lied. On those videotapes, she admitted that she lied. She destroyed that guy's she destroyed his career. And he was in prison for 8 years. And what happened to her afterwards? Nothing. I mean, there should be repercussions for perjury. I mean, if you want to make serious accusations and it comes out that you've made false allegations, you should sit in prison for that exact same time for the allegations that you made. If you want to accuse someone of domestic violence, that person get prosecuted for, let's say, 200,000 and fine or 1 year imprisonment, and it comes out afterwards you lied, you should be sentenced for 1 year in prison or a 200,000 and fine for making those false allegations. And make people twice before making those allegations.
Who agrees with Ernst on that point, that you should serve the same time that you alleged if you falsely accuse someone? The exact same penalty should be imposed on you. Who agrees with that? Type agree in the chat. All right. Guys, just before we end off, you are welcome to do this interview. Ernst, I like asking this. What has this done for you to finally be able to speak about it? I know we can't speak the whole truth and name names here and give all the details. It is social media, but we are working on a plan to take all the details offline so that people's stories can be told as it happens. There's brutal stuff that I hear about, but has this done anything for you by
It's done a
coming
lot
on
for
here
me.
and speaking about it?
It's done a lot for me, to be quite honest with you. It gives you a bit more clarity. It gives you it gives you a sense of how can I say, that you're not alone in this case. You're not alone in the case. There's many other parents that goes through exactly the same than what you're going through. So you can relate in a sense. So I think emotionally it strengthens you, to ensure that you're not the only person going through this fight, being alienated from your children, and also getting tips. I mean, at the end of the day, we can learn from each interview. You learn. I mean, you can take something from each interview with someone and say, listen, but yes, I'm going through what this guy's going through, and this is the steps he took. This is what he done, and this is what he got achieved. So, I mean, at the end of the day, knowledge is power. The more you share, the more information you can start gaining out of other people's experiences, the more it will enlighten you to be able to make more, better decisions.
Better choices, yeah.
Better choices. At the end
I
of the day.
agree.
I mean, when you go into this blindfolded in the beginning, I wish I knew what I knew now 2-3 years later, and I can tell you what you wish you knew what you did now 10 years later. So I think it's just a learning curve, and it's a learning experience, and hopefully this movement will gain traction so we can get to a point where we can start implementing it as a set standard in our court systems, that 50-50 parental you know,
Right.
parenting
just
rights get implemented as a set standard, and then
Yeah.
you know, working from that as a starting point, and not saying automatically parent A gets full custody because he's got more money, or parent B
Yeah.
gets full custody because he's the children, or accusations was made against XYZ. You know, it's
Absolutely.
it's critical that both parents are in the children's lives, and it's been proven over and over again. I mean, you know, stop adding
something that I've learned recently, Ernst, and a lot of people don't know. I still want to get my facts straight on this one, but there's the constitutional law, and then there's the Children's Act. The constitutional law is above the Children's Act, and apparently there are things that are contradicting, or things that people that lawyers use. They pull out these little terms in the Children's Act, but it's contradictory to the constitutional law, which governs everything, your rights as a human being. So I just heard about this today, so don't quote me on this, guys, but I will get more information, and we'll look at this from that lens. I'm having I have a couple of people researching that, or have already done research. I just want them to provide facts, so that the next time we come on here, we can skip this whole family advocate, because right now it's not working. The family advocate, I've been back there. There was a notice the last time I was there. That was in July last year, saying that they closed for COVID. Send an email, and they've got 4 email addresses there. Guess what? I CC'd all of them to this day. Didn't get a reply. So it's easy to hide behind the email. You know what I'm saying? And there's children suffering day in, day out. This is abuse. Those children grow up. It's been proven in almost every alienated child that they've got some sort of disorder. They turn to drugs. There's some sort of abuse that goes on in their life. They end up, for a daughter that hasn't had a father in their life, they grow up choosing an abusive male figure, or they just hate men. And a boy that grows up without his mother starts hating women, and they get into the relationship, and guess what? They become they abusive. So how long are we gonna let this cycle just continue? You know, next generation and next generation. People, it's been good. Thanks for joining us. Ernst, anything you want to say in closing?
Yeah, I just wanted for whoever's listening out there, just want to say, keep on fighting the good fight. I mean, it's going to be a lot of the times. I mentioned it earlier in the interview that you know, the parent that gets alienated, you know, they basically are being victims. I mean, it's happened with myself where because of this court order that says stipulate supervised visits, I one day just drove past my children's kindergarten. I just wanted to greet them through the fence, and I got threat emails from the opposition's lawyer to say that they're going to arrest me because I'm in contempt of court, you know. So it's just a question of don't give up. Follow all the channels you possibly can, even whether it's through the magistrate court, if it's through the high court. You know, go and apply for a counselor in the high court, or for a pro bono lawyer if you don't have sufficient funds to apply for a lawyer. There's a few shortcuts that I've learned through, and you guys are more than welcome to ask me what the shortcuts are. I'm not going to publicly, openly say what the shortcuts are, but it's a question of, if you can't beat the system, join the system and make it work for you. And there's a few shortcuts that I've learned. And like I said, just don't stop fighting. Eventually, you'll win the war. It's just a question of just keep on fighting the good fight. You know what's good, the right thing to do, and just don't stop fighting.
If only we didn't have to fight. If only we didn't have
that's
to
the
fight,
unfortunate thing,
and
that's the thing. But I think the more we're going to be fighting now going forward, hopefully, you know, a solution will be, you know, starting to be implemented going forward. You know, to prevent any of this, you know, because at the end of the day, parents shouldn't fight to see their children. I mean, it's evident, and we know it as, you know it as good as I know it. But I think the more parents start fighting for it and not lay
And
back
just speaking
and give
up, just speaking up.
Speak up.
Come on, yeah, I guarantee you, if by the end of this year we have done an interview each and every day, 365 people cannot be wrong.
Mm.
So type interview. You don't have to name names or anything. You don't have to be, well, you can be as vocal as you want to as well. I don't mind. But come in here, tell your story, and get the support. We are becoming we becoming a family here, right? And we learning from each other. Trust me, things are happening in the background. I can't reveal it right now, but we are working on the system. I have revealed the system already, and it's just a system to manage cases, to make sure that things are dealt with on time. A case, you should never, if a divorce happens or if a separation occurs, you should never have to wait 3 months initially just to be in that. When that child wakes up the next day and daddy's moved out of the house, and every day that child has to ask, when am I seeing my father? When am I seeing my... After 3 months, have you mothers thought that keeps that child away from the father? Have you thought what that is doing to the child? And then you want to talk about best interest, and you're protecting your child from who? From what? Open your eyes. You're destroying that child. Guys, thank you for joining us. Again, if you'd like to be interviewed, type interview in the chat. If you would like to join as a volunteer, just just type volunteer in the chat. Both sides, you're going to just be answering a couple of questions. On the interview side, just give us your short story. I'll get on with the pre-interview, just prepare everything, and you come on here. I promise you'll feel better after you get off here, and you'll have us supporting you from here on out. All right. Thank you. Good night. I'll see you all. Peace. Ernest, just stay on for me. I just want to have a little chat with you after. All right. Have a good
100%.
evening, guys.
All
See you
right.
tomorrow.
Thanks a lot. All right. Cheers.
Bye.